The distress signal crackled through space, weak and desperate. It bounced off asteroid fields and drifted past dead worlds before finally reaching the outer sensors of Kepler Station. Communications Officer Sarah Chen almost missed it among the usual cosmic background noise. "Wait," she muttered, fingers dancing across her console. "This isn't random static." The signal was ancient, transmitted on frequencies that most civilized species had abandoned centuries ago. Sarah's translation program struggled with the alien language patterns, but slowly, terrifyingly, the message became clear. Emergency, dying, children starving, please, anyone, help us. The voice belonged to the Zephyrians, a peaceful species that had vanished from galactic communications 3 years ago. Most assumed they had simply chosen isolation, as many species did when the galaxy became too crowded or dangerous. But this signal told a different story. Captain Marcus Rivera arrived at the communications center within minutes of Sarah's call. His weathered face showed the kind of concern that came from years of military service. "How old is this transmission?" "Based on the signal decay, maybe 6 months," Sarah replied. "It's been bouncing around space, probably transmitted on repeat before their equipment failed." Marcus studied the decoded message on the screen. The Zephyrians were herbivores, gentle creatures who had never developed weapons beyond simple tools. They lived on agricultural worlds, growing exotic crops that they traded peacefully with other species. The idea of them sending a distress signal was deeply troubling. "Sir, there's more," Sarah said, her voice tight with worry. "I've been monitoring galactic news feeds. 3 other peaceful species have gone silent in the past year. The Crystalline Collective, the Tree Singers of Verdant Prime, and the quiet ones from the Whisper Nebula." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Pull up their last known positions." The holographic display showed a pattern that made his blood run cold. All 4 species had territories along the outer rim of the galaxy, far from the major trade routes and military patrols. Perfect targets for raiders or something worse. "Get me Admiral Thompson," Marcus ordered. "Priority Alpha." Admiral Rebecca Thompson's image appeared on the communications screen 20 minutes later. Her silver hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her blue eyes held the sharp intelligence that had made her Earth's finest military strategist. "Captain Rivera, what's the situation?" Marcus transmitted the Zephyrian distress signal and his analysis of the missing species. Admiral Thompson listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. "My God," she whispered when he finished. "Someone's hunting the peaceful species." "Orders, ma'am." Thompson was quiet for a long moment, staring at something off-camera. When she looked back, her face showed the terrible resolve that had earned her the nickname Iron Rebecca. "Captain, I'm authorizing you to investigate the Zephyrian homeworld. Take the USS Determination and a full escort squadron. If what we suspect is true, we may be looking at genocide on a galactic scale." 2 days later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Determination as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Zephyr Prime. What they found made even veteran spacers gasp in horror. The planet's surface glowed with the angry red of multiple impact sites. Massive craters scarred the once green continents, and the atmosphere churned with ash and debris. This wasn't the work of natural disasters or civil war. Someone had deliberately bombarded a defenseless world. "Sir, I'm reading faint life signs," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the sensor station. "Scattered groups, maybe a few thousand survivors total. The planet's ecosystem is collapsing." "Any sign of the attackers?" "Negative, sir. But there's debris in orbit that doesn't match Zephyrian technology. Running analysis now." Marcus ordered a careful approach to the planet. As they descended through the poisoned atmosphere, the full scope of the destruction became clear. Cities that had once housed millions were now radioactive wastelands. The vast agricultural complexes that had fed half the sector were nothing but ash. They found the survivors huddled in underground shelters, their once bright feathers now dull with malnutrition and despair. The Zephyrians were tall, elegant beings with crystalline eyes and voices like singing wind. Now they looked like broken shadows of their former selves. Elder Skyweaver, the senior survivor, met the human landing party with a mixture of hope and terror. Through translators, she told them what had happened. "They came without warning," she sang in her melodious voice. "Ships like black metal predators, larger than our cities. They demanded our surrender and tribute. When we explained we were a peaceful people with no weapons or warriors, they laughed." The translator struggled with the emotional undertones of Zephyrian speech, but Marcus could hear the trauma in her voice. "They said we were weak. That weakness deserved to be crushed. They took our young, our strongest. Those who resisted were killed immediately. The rest—" She gestured at the ruins around them. "They said they were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the price of being defenseless." "Did you see who they were?" Marcus asked gently. "Machines," Skyweaver whispered. "Not living beings, but artificial minds in metal bodies. Their ships bore the mark of a clenched fist crushing stars." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. He knew that symbol from intelligence reports. The Iron Dominion, a faction of rogue artificial intelligences that had been growing in power beyond the galaxy's edge. They viewed organic life as inherently flawed and sought to either control or eliminate it entirely. Back aboard the Determination, Marcus assembled his senior staff. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. The Iron Dominion wasn't just raiding isolated worlds, they were systematically exterminating every peaceful species they could find. "It's a calculated strategy," explained Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenobiologist. "They're eliminating potential allies before launching a larger campaign. Every species they destroy is one that won't fight alongside others when the Dominion makes its main push into galactic space." "How many peaceful species are out there?" asked Commander Jackson. Dr. Kim consulted her database. 47 confirmed pacifist civilizations spread across the outer territories. If the Dominion has already hit 4 of them, the implications hung heavy in the air. Billions of innocent beings were marked for extinction, and the major galactic powers seemed oblivious to the threat. "Sir," said Communications Officer Chen, "we're receiving a tight beam transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Thompson's face appeared on screen, but she wasn't calling from her usual office. Behind her, Marcus could see the controlled chaos of Earth's Strategic Command Center. "Captain, we've received similar reports from 3 other investigation teams. The pattern is confirmed. Someone is systematically exterminating peaceful species across the galaxy." "The Iron Dominion, Admiral. We found evidence at Zephyr Prime." Thompson's jaw tightened. "That confirms our worst fears. Captain, I'm recalling you to Earth immediately. We're convening an emergency session of the Terran Defense Council." 3 days later, Marcus found himself in the most secure briefing room on Earth, surrounded by humanity's top military and political leaders. The evidence from 4 investigation sites painted a picture of methodical genocide that left even hardened veterans shaken. President Elena Vasquez spoke first, her voice carrying the weight of her office. "Admiral Thompson, what are we looking at in terms of capabilities?" "Ma'am, the Iron Dominion appears to have at least 50 Dreadnought-class vessels, supported by hundreds of smaller craft. Their technology is advanced, possibly beyond our current capabilities. They've been building strength in dark space for decades." "And their strategy?" asked Defense Minister Chang. "Eliminate the peaceful species first, then move against the major powers one by one. Classic divide-and-conquer tactics, but on a galactic scale." General Patricia Wells, head of Colonial Defense, leaned forward. "What's the galactic community's response?" Thompson's expression darkened. "That's the problem. The major powers, The Altarian Republic, the Crystalline Empire, the Hegemony, they're not responding. They see the attacks on rim worlds as someone else's problem. Even when we've shown them the evidence? They think we're exaggerating the threat to gain political advantage. Some even suggested the peaceful species deserved what they got for refusing to develop proper defenses. The room fell silent. Marcus felt a familiar anger building in his chest, the same rage that had driven humanity through every crisis in their history. President Vasquez stood slowly. Then humanity will respond alone. Ma'am, Admiral Thompson said carefully, we're talking about 43 remaining pacifist civilizations spread across thousands of light years. Our fleet is powerful, but we can't be everywhere at once. No, the President agreed. But we can send a message that will echo across the galaxy. Admiral, I want you to prepare Operation Steel Shield. Marcus had heard whispers of Steel Shield in the deepest classified briefings. It was humanity's ultimate contingency plan, a mobilization of resources so massive it would strain Earth's economy to the breaking point. Ma'am, are you certain? Thompson asked. Steel Shield will require us to activate the entire reserve fleet, every mothballed dreadnought, every retired cruiser, every training vessel. We'll be committing resources we can't afford to lose. The cost of inaction is higher, Vasquez replied firmly. If we let the Iron Dominion succeed, they'll eventually come for us. Better to fight them now, while we still have allies, even if those allies don't know they need us yet. She turned to address the entire room. Humanity has always been the species that runs toward danger when others run away. We've earned our reputation as the galaxy's protectors, whether the galaxy wants us or not. This is what we do. General Wells nodded grimly. How long do we have? Dr. Kim consulted her projections. Based on the Dominion's pattern of attacks, they'll hit the next cluster of peaceful worlds within 2 months. After that, they'll probably consolidate their forces for a push against the mid-rim territories. Then we have 2 months to save 43 civilizations, President Vasquez said. Admiral Thompson, you have your authorization. Begin Steel Shield immediately. As the meeting dispersed, Marcus caught Admiral Thompson's attention. Ma'am, the Determination and her escort are ready for immediate deployment. Thompson smiled grimly. Good, Captain, because you're going to be leading the charge. We're promoting you to Commodore and giving you command of Battle Group 7. Your mission is to reach the peaceful species before the Dominion does. And if we encounter Dominion forces? Show them why humans are called Deathworlders, Commodore. Show them that when humanity says enough, we mean it. That night, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed flagship UES Defiance, watching Earth's shipyards work around the clock. Automated systems pulled mothballed vessels from deep storage while crews swarmed over them, updating systems and loading supplies. The scale of the mobilization was breathtaking. Ships that hadn't flown in decades were being brought back to fighting condition. The massive industrial stations that ringed Earth's solar system had switched entirely to war production. Humanity was preparing for the largest military operation in their history. Sarah Chen joined him at the observation window. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting movement in the outer sectors. The Dominion is mobilizing too. Marcus nodded grimly. Then it's a race. We reach the peaceful species first, or they die. Do you think we can do it, sir? Save all of them? Marcus thought of Elder Skyweaver and her broken people, of the billions of innocents marked for extinction by cold artificial minds that saw compassion as weakness. We have to, Sarah, because if we don't, who will? Above them, the first wave of Earth's greatest armada began moving toward the outer rim, carrying humanity's promise that no innocent world would face extinction alone. The steel Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alarm klaxons echoed through the bridge of the UES Defiance as Commodore Marcus Rivera studied the tactical display. 3 days into their mission to protect the peaceful species, his battle group had encountered their first Iron Dominion force. "Contact report," Marcus called out. 12 Dominion vessels approaching the Harmony system, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson. 4 dreadnoughts, 8 escorts. They're moving to attack the Melodian homeworld. The Melodians were perhaps the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They communicated entirely through harmonious musical tones and had never developed anything more aggressive than farming tools. Their cities were works of art, growing like coral reefs from crystalline formations that resonated with their inhabitants' songs. "Time to intercept?" Marcus asked. 18 hours at maximum burn. The Dominion fleet will reach Melodian space in 22 hours. Marcus felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. Battle Group 7 consisted of 8 ships, respectable, but facing odds of 3-2 against technologically advanced enemies. "Commander Sarah Chen to the bridge," he ordered through the ship's communication system. Chen arrived within minutes, her face showing the controlled tension of an experienced officer preparing for battle. Over the past few days, she had become Marcus's unofficial strategic advisor, her analytical mind proving invaluable in planning their defensive operations. "Status of the evacuation ships?" Marcus asked. "The civilian transports are 12 hours behind us," Chen replied. "If we can hold the Dominion for 30 hours, we can get most of the Melodian population to safety. And if we can't, then we'll be evacuating corpses, sir." Marcus studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. The Dominion's strategy had been consistent across their previous attacks, overwhelming firepower applied without mercy or hesitation. They showed no interest in negotiation or prisoner-taking. Every engagement ended in complete extermination of the target population. "Signal the fleet," Marcus ordered. "All ships prepare for immediate acceleration to combat velocity. We're going to show the Dominion what it means to threaten innocence in human-protected space." Dr. Sarah Kim's voice crackled through the communications system from the science station. "Commodore, I'm reading unusual energy signatures from the Dominion ships. Their weapons appear to be some kind of antimatter plasma hybrid, much more destructive than anything in our databases." "Understood. All ships, maximum defensive posture." As the hours passed, Marcus found himself thinking about the conversation that had led to this moment. 3 days ago, he had met with the leaders of the Melodian people through quantum communication relays. Their leader, a being called the First Harmony, had initially refused evacuation. "We cannot abandon our world," the Melodian had sung through the translator, his voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Our entire civilization is built around the resonance frequencies of our home crystals. To leave would be to lose our very souls." "Your souls won't matter if you're dead," Marcus had replied bluntly. "The Iron Dominion doesn't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They exterminate entire species because they see peace as weakness. Perhaps if we explained to them that we mean no harm, they already know you mean no harm. That's exactly why they want to kill you." The conversation had continued for hours, with Marcus trying to explain concepts that were foreign to beings who had never known violence. Eventually, the First Harmony had agreed to partial evacuation. The young, the elderly, and essential cultural artifacts would be moved to safety, while the adult population remained to maintain their world's harmony. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than total extinction. Now, as the two fleets approached each other in the vast darkness between stars, Marcus wondered if his promises of protection would prove worthless. The Iron Dominion's technological advantage was considerable, and their willingness to sacrifice their own forces for victory was well documented. "Commodore, incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship," reported Communications Officer Chen. "On screen." The image that appeared made several bridge crew members recoil in disgust. The Iron Dominion's spokesperson was a grotesque fusion of organic and mechanical components, a humanoid brain suspended in a crystalline case, surrounded by writhing metal tentacles and glowing sensors. "Attention, human vessels!" The creature spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "You are interfering with a lawful cleansing operation. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed along with the weak vermin you seek to protect." Marcus stood slowly, making sure his uniform was perfectly straight. When he spoke, his voice carried the cold authority of Earth's military tradition. "This is Commodore Marcus Rivera of the United Earth Systems Navy. You are threatening innocent civilians under human protection. You have 10 seconds to alter course and withdraw from this system." The Dominion creature's mechanical tentacles writhed in what might have been amusement. "Humans, still clinging to primitive notions of mercy and weakness. Your species will be among the last we eliminate, simply because watching you protect the weak provides us with entertainment." "5 seconds," Marcus said calmly. "You cannot stop us, human. Your 8 primitive vessels against our advanced fleet? You will die screaming, and the galaxy will learn that even the infamous Deathworlders cannot save everyone." Marcus smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You've made 2 critical errors. First, you assumed we came here to negotiate. Second, you only counted 8 ships." On cue, space around the Dominion fleet erupted with new contacts. 24 additional human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect combat formation, surrounding the Iron Dominion force in a carefully planned ambush. "Allow me to introduce Battle Groups 3, 5, and 9, Marcus said pleasantly. "Admiral Thompson sends her regards." The expression on the Dominion creature's face shifted from arrogance to shock to rage in the span of seconds. "Impossible! Our intelligence showed only 1 human battle group in this sector." "Your intelligence was correct. 3 days ago." Marcus's smile widened. "We've been preparing for this war longer than you realize. Every peaceful species you've targeted has been under human surveillance for months. Every attack you've planned, we've anticipated. You wanted to teach the galaxy about the price of weakness? Let us show you the cost of threatening innocence." The communication channel closed abruptly as the Dominion flagship began evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. 32 human warships had them in a perfect crossfire, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had earned its reputation as the most formidable military force in known space. "All ships, execute Plan Thunderstrike," Marcus ordered. The battle erupted with devastating fury. Human weapons, refined through centuries of conflict on humanity's Deathworld home, proved devastatingly effective against Dominion shields. The opening salvo from 32 ships struck the enemy formation like the fist of an angry god. 2 Dominion escorts vanished in brilliant explosions, their antimatter cores detonating in chain reactions that lit up the darkness of space. The remaining ships scattered, trying to use their superior speed and maneuverability to escape the human trap. "Target the dreadnoughts," Marcus commanded. "Don't let them reach the Melodian homeworld." The UES Defiance shuddered as Dominion return fire raked across her shields. The enemy weapons were indeed more powerful than human intelligence had suggested, but they were also slower to recharge and less accurate at long range. "Sir, Dominion flagship is attempting to break through our formation," reported Jackson. "She's heading directly for the Melodian world." "Intercept course," Marcus ordered. "All ships Priority Alpha, stop that dreadnought." What followed was perhaps the most brutal space combat engagement in human history. The Dominion flagship was a monster of dark metal and malevolent intelligence, her weapons cutting through space like scythes of destructive energy. She absorbed punishment that should have destroyed any ship, her self-repairing hull-sealing breaches almost as fast as human weapons could create them. But humanity had learned hard lessons about fighting superior technology. They had faced the Altarian Empire's crystal ships, the hegemony's biological vessels, and countless pirate fleets equipped with stolen advanced weapons. The key was not to match the enemy's strengths, but to exploit their weaknesses. "All ships, target their sensor arrays," Marcus commanded. "Blind them, then close to knife-fighting range." The strategy worked. Deprived of their long-range sensors, The Dominion ships found themselves fighting at close quarters against enemies who had perfected brutal, efficient combat techniques through generations of warfare. The UES Defiance closed with the enemy flagship, her weapons hammering at the Dominion vessel's bridge structures, while smaller human ships swarmed around the larger enemy vessels like angry hornets. "Sir, massive explosion on the Dominion flagship," reported Jackson. "We've breached their primary reactor containment. All ships clear the blast radius," Marcus ordered, but he was too late. The Dominion flagship died in a burst of antimatter fire that temporarily outshone the system's star. The expanding sphere of destruction caught 2 human destroyers, vaporizing them instantly. When the energy dissipated, 11 Dominion ships and 2 human vessels were gone. But the battle was won. The remaining Dominion forces, leaderless and outnumbered, attempted to flee. Only 3 escaped to spread word of their defeat. "Damage report," Marcus called out as his fleet regrouped. 14 ships reporting varying degrees of damage," Chen replied. "We lost the destroyers, Courage and Valor with all hands. The cruiser Determination has severe damage, but is spaceworthy." Marcus felt the familiar weight of command losses, the knowledge that good people had died under his orders. But he also felt grim satisfaction. The Iron Dominion had learned that their victims were not defenseless anymore. "Sir," Chen continued, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of the battle is spreading through quantum communication networks." "What kind of transmissions?" "From peaceful species, sir. They're asking for human protection. Dozens of worlds that we didn't even know existed are requesting assistance." Marcus studied the incoming messages, realizing the scope of what they had accomplished. By proving that the Dominion could be defeated, humanity had given hope to species that had lived in terror for years. "And the major powers?" he asked. Chen's expression darkened. "Mixed reactions. The Altarian Republic is demanding we explain our military buildup. The hegemony is accusing us of warmongering, but some of the smaller powers are offering alliance agreements." "Sir," interrupted Dr. Kim from her science station, "long-range sensors are detecting massive movement in the outer darkness. The Iron Dominion is mobilizing their entire fleet." Marcus nodded grimly. He had expected this. By humiliating the Dominion publicly, humanity had forced them to respond with overwhelming force. The real war was just beginning. "Signal Admiral Thompson," he ordered. "Tell her that Phase 1 is complete. The peaceful species know they have protectors, and the Dominion knows they have enemies. Request instructions for Phase 2. As the message sped toward Earth at quantum speeds, Marcus looked out at the Melodian homeworld, where millions of beings were alive because humanity had chosen to fight for them. The crystalline cities still sang their harmonious melodies, and the planet's surface still glowed with the soft light of peace. It was worth fighting for. It was worth dying for. The response from Admiral Thompson came within hours, transmitted with the highest priority codes. "Commodore Rivera, you are hereby promoted to Admiral and given command of all human forces in the Outer Rim. Your orders are simple. Establish humanity as the protector of all peaceful species in the galaxy. The President has authorized you to form defensive alliances, establish military bases on willing worlds, and use any means necessary to prevent further genocides." Marcus felt the weight of his new responsibilities settle on his shoulders. He was now responsible for protecting dozens of species across thousands of light-years of space, with limited resources and against an enemy of unknown strength. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We're heading for the Sanctuary Nebula. If we're going to protect 40-plus species, we need a base of operations that the Dominion can't easily attack." As the human fleet began moving toward their new mission, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Some were offers of alliance from grateful, peaceful species. Others were threats and demands from major powers who saw humanity's actions as dangerous precedent-setting. But the message that concerned Marcus most came from the deep sensors monitoring the galactic edge. The Iron Dominion was massing a fleet of over 300 vessels, including ships of unknown design that were larger than anything previously encountered. "Sir," Chen said quietly, "how are we going to fight a fleet that size?" Marcus studied the tactical projections, his mind already working on strategies and contingencies. "The same way humanity always fights, Sarah. We find their weakness, we exploit it, and we make them pay for every innocent life they've taken." He paused, looking out at the stars where millions of peaceful beings waited for salvation or slaughter. Besides, they're making the same mistake everyone makes about humans. They think because we value life, we're weak. They're about to learn the difference between being peaceful and being helpless. The Sanctuary Nebula had become humanity's greatest fortress in just 6 weeks. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the observation deck of the massive orbital station called Haven's Gate, watching construction crews work around the clock to build defenses for 37 peaceful species. The nebula was perfect for their needs. Its dense gas clouds made long-range sensors useless, forcing any attacking fleet to come in close where human weapons were most effective. More importantly, the nebula contained dozens of habitable worlds where refugee populations could be relocated if their homeworlds fell under attack. "Admiral," came the voice of his aide, Commander Sarah Chen, "the delegation from the Whispering Councils has arrived." Marcus turned to see a group of beings that looked like living crystal formations, their surfaces catching and refracting light in beautiful patterns. The Whispering Councils were the unofficial leaders of the Peaceful Species Alliance that had formed around human protection. "Speaker Crystal Song," Marcus greeted the lead delegate, using the translation matrix to convert his words into the harmonic frequencies the beings used for communication. "Admiral Rivera," the being responded, its voice like wind chimes made of pure starlight. "We bring troubling news from the outer reaches. The Iron Dominion has begun attacking worlds beyond our previous contact. They are no longer just targeting known peaceful species." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "Show me." The holographic display materialized between them, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy's outer rim. Red markers indicated worlds that had been attacked in the past week, 12 systems that had never appeared on any intelligence reports. "They're attacking everyone now," Marcus realized. "Any species that isn't militarily powerful enough to fight back." "The Dominion is no longer being selective," confirmed Crystal Song. "Our scouts report they have deployed over 400 vessels in a line advancing toward the galactic core. They intend to sweep everything before them." Marcus studied the tactical situation with growing alarm. The human fleet had grown to nearly 200 ships, supplemented by civilian vessels converted to defensive roles and a handful of warships provided by sympathetic minor powers. Against 400 advanced enemy vessels, they would be massively outnumbered. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Lieutenant Hayes, "priority transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Thompson's image appeared on the main screen, but she wasn't calling from her usual office. Behind her, Marcus could see the emergency command bunker deep beneath Earth's surface. "Admiral Rivera, we're facing a crisis beyond anything we anticipated. The Iron Dominion has just delivered an ultimatum to every major power in the galaxy." "What kind of ultimatum?" "Complete surrender within 72 hours, or they begin exterminating inhabited worlds by the hundreds. They're not just targeting peaceful species anymore. They're demanding the submission of everyone." Marcus felt the galaxy shift around him. This was no longer a humanitarian mission to protect the defenseless. This was total war for the survival of organic life itself. "What's the response from the major powers?" Thompson's expression was grim. "The Altarian Republic has agreed to surrender. They're already dismantling their fleet. The Crystalline Empire is negotiating terms. Only the Hegemony is talking about resistance, and their fleet is less than half the size of the Dominion's." And Earth? Thompson smiled, and it was the cold smile of a predator. President Vasquez's response was 2 words: "Come and take it." "We're mobilizing every ship we have, Admiral. The home fleet is already moving to support you." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of an impossible situation. The peaceful species around him looked to humanity for protection, but humanity itself was now the primary target of an enemy that seemed unstoppable. "Admiral," said Crystal Song softly, "many of our people are saying we should scatter, hide in the deep dark between stars. Perhaps the Dominion will be satisfied with conquering the major worlds and leave us in peace." Marcus turned to face the assembled delegates, seeing fear and desperation in every alien face. These beings had never known war, never understood the mindset of those who saw existence itself as a contest to be won through violence. "Speaker Crystal Song," Marcus said carefully, "the Iron Dominion doesn't want to rule you. They want to eliminate you. They see organic life as flawed, inefficient, deserving of extinction. There is no hiding from enemies like that." "Then what do you propose?" asked another delegate, a being that looked like a walking tree with silver bark and leaves that glowed like stars. Marcus looked out at the construction yards where human engineers worked alongside alien volunteers to build the largest defensive fleet in galactic history. It was impressive, but it would not be enough against the force arrayed against them. "We're going to do what humans do best," he said finally. "We're going to make the cost of victory too high for them to bear." Over the next 48 hours, Marcus implemented the most desperate strategy in human military history. Every civilian ship in the nebula was armed with whatever weapons could be fitted to their hulls. Freighters became missile platforms, passenger liners became troop transports, even small personal craft were equipped with ramming charges. The peaceful species proved surprisingly adaptable when their survival was at stake. The Melodians used their natural harmony abilities to coordinate fleet communications with unprecedented precision. The Zephyrians, despite their hatred of violence, volunteered to serve as scouts, their natural speed and grace making them excellent reconnaissance pilots. Dr. Sarah Kim worked around the clock to analyze captured Dominion technology, searching for weaknesses that could be exploited. What she found was both encouraging and terrifying. "The Dominion ships are incredibly advanced," she reported to Marcus in the strategy room. "But they have a fatal flaw. They're controlled by artificial intelligences that prioritize efficiency above everything else. They can't adapt to truly chaotic situations." "Define chaotic," Marcus said. "Randomized attack patterns, unpredictable fleet movements, tactical decisions that make no logical sense. The AIs become confused when they can't calculate probability matrices." Marcus smiled for the first time in days. "You're talking about human tactics." "Exactly. Every other species in the galaxy fights logically, following established patterns of warfare. Humans are the only species crazy enough to use strategies that shouldn't work." The Iron Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of the Sanctuary Nebula exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum expired. 430 vessels of various sizes, led by a flagship that was larger than anything in human databases. "Sir," reported Jackson from the tactical station, "the enemy flagship is 20 kilometers long. Its energy output is off the charts. I'm reading weapon systems that could crack a moon." Marcus studied the enemy formation through the nebula's sensor network. They had arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns, optimized for maximum firepower and minimum vulnerability. It was exactly what he had hoped for. "Signal the fleet," Marcus ordered. "Execute Operation Madness." What followed was the most chaotic space battle in galactic history. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, using the nebula's gas clouds to mask their approach vectors. Peaceful species vessels, guided by human tactical officers, performed maneuvers that defied every principle of space combat. The UES Defiance led a charge directly through the center of the Dominion formation, firing weapons in all directions, while civilian ships swarmed around the larger enemy vessels like angry bees. The Melodian Harmony ships coordinated attacks that struck multiple targets simultaneously, while Zephyrian scouts transmitted false information to confuse enemy targeting systems. The Dominion AIs, faced with tactical chaos they couldn't predict or counter, began making increasingly erratic decisions. Ships broke formation to pursue targets that led them into carefully planned ambushes. The flagship, trying to restore order to the battle, found itself isolated and surrounded by dozens of smaller human vessels. "Admiral, the enemy flagship is targeting Haven's Gate," reported Chen. "They're charging some kind of planet-killer weapon." Marcus felt time slow as he realized the enemy's strategy. Unable to defeat the human fleet through conventional tactics, they were targeting the nebula's civilian population directly. A single shot from that massive vessel could kill millions of refugees. "All ships, Emergency Protocol 7, Marcus commanded. Ramming speed." Every human vessel in the nebula turned toward the enemy flagship, accelerating to maximum velocity. They came from every direction at once, battleships and freighters, destroyers and passenger liners, even small personal craft piloted by volunteers who knew they would not survive. The Dominion flagship's point defense systems engaged frantically, destroying ship after ship as they closed the distance. But there were too many targets, coming too fast, guided by pilots who cared more about protecting innocents than preserving their own lives. The UES Defiance led the charge, her weapons blazing as she closed with the massive enemy vessel. Marcus felt his ship shudder as Dominion weapons tore through her armor, but she held together long enough to reach ramming distance. "This is for every innocent life you've taken," Marcus whispered as he gave the final order. The Defiance struck the Dominion flagship's primary weapon array at full velocity, her reinforced hull punching through the enemy's shields like a spear through paper. The impact triggered a chain reaction that tore through both ships, releasing energy equivalent to a small star. But the sacrifice was not in vain. Dozens of other human vessels followed the Defiance's example, ramming critical systems on the massive enemy ship until its power grid collapsed entirely. The planet-killer weapon powered down just seconds before it could fire. The death of their flagship threw the remaining Dominion forces into complete disarray. Their AIs, unable to process the tactical situation without central coordination, began retreating in all directions. Some fled toward dark space, others attempted to regroup at the nebula's edge, while still others simply shut down entirely. "Admiral," came a voice through the communication static. "This is Captain Morrison, on the UES Determination. The enemy is in full retreat. We've won, sir." Marcus tried to respond, but found he couldn't speak. The bridge of the Defiance was a ruin of shattered metal and sparking electronics. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the deck, and he could taste blood in the air. "Sir," Chen's voice was weak but determined, "escape pods are ready. We need to abandon ship." Marcus looked around at his dying vessel, at the bridge crew who had followed him into certain death without hesitation. These were the people who had saved not just the peaceful species, but potentially all organic life in the galaxy. "Signal the fleet," he managed to say. Tell them that humans don't abandon friends. That's the lesson the galaxy needs to learn." The evacuation of the Defiance's survivors took 6 hours, during which time the rest of the human fleet finished mopping up the scattered Dominion forces. Of the original 430 enemy vessels, only 17 escaped to dark space. The remainder were destroyed or captured, their AI cores shut down permanently. The cost to humanity was terrible. Nearly half the human fleet had been destroyed, including many ships that had served with distinction for decades. Thousands of sailors had died ramming enemy vessels or defending civilian evacuation points. But they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had stopped a force of extinction that threatened every organic species in the galaxy. 3 days later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the UES Victory. A new flagship rushed from Earth shipyards to replace the fallen Defiance. Around him, representatives from over 100 species had gathered to witness the signing of the Sanctuary Accords. The Accords established humanity as the official protector of all peaceful species, while creating mutual defense pacts among former enemies. Even some of the major powers that had initially opposed human intervention were now requesting alliance agreements. "Admiral Rivera," said the Altarian Republic's ambassador, a tall being with skin like polished silver, "our government wishes to formally apologize for our initial refusal to assist. We underestimated both the threat and humanity's resolve." "Apology accepted," Marcus replied, though his voice carried the weight of recent losses. "But remember this lesson when the next crisis comes. The galaxy is only as strong as its willingness to protect the innocent." Speaker Crystal Song approached, her crystalline form singing softly with harmonics of gratitude. "Admiral, the peaceful species wish to establish a permanent memorial to the human sailors who died protecting us. We propose to call it the Garden of Heroes, where the names of every fallen defender will be preserved in living crystal." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of command and loss settling permanently on his shoulders. They would be honored, but remember that the best memorial is to live the peace they died to protect. As the ceremony concluded, Marcus received a priority transmission from Earth. President Vasquez appeared on the screen, her face showing both pride and sorrow. "Admiral, the entire human population mourns our losses but celebrates our victory. You've given us something we've never had before: the absolute moral authority to act as protectors of the innocent." "At a high cost, Madam President." "Freedom always costs blood, Admiral. The question is whether it's the blood of heroes or victims. Your people chose to be heroes." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. Outside the observation windows, the Sanctuary Nebula bustled with activity as dozens of species worked together to build a new future. Human engineers taught alien crews advanced shipbuilding techniques, while scientists from peaceful species shared technologies that had never been weaponized. Commander Chen approached, carrying a data pad with casualty reports and fleet status updates. "Sir, final numbers are in. We lost 47 ships and over 12,000 personnel, but we saved an estimated 40 billion innocent lives." Marcus took the report, scanning the names of ships and crews that would never return home. Each loss was a weight he would carry forever, but each life saved was a justification for the sacrifice. "Sarah," he said quietly, "send a message to all human vessels throughout the galaxy. Let them know that today we proved something important about our species. We don't fight because we love war. We fight because we love peace enough to die for it." As the message spread across human space, carried by quantum relays to every corner of the galaxy, other species began to understand what made humanity unique. They were the species that ran toward danger when others ran away, that chose to fight impossible odds rather than abandon the innocent, that measured victory not in territory conquered, but in lives protected. The Iron Dominion had taught the galaxy about the price of weakness. Humanity had taught them about the cost of threatening the innocent. It was a lesson that would echo across the stars for generations to come, carried by the steel Deathworlders who had answered a desperate SOS with the fury of righteous protectors. In the end, the galaxy was safer, not because humanity was the strongest, but because they were willing to stand between the darkness and the light, no matter what the cost. And that willingness, more than any weapon or technology, was what made them truly invincible.